Kia is surprisingly starting this year with the EV3, and in this video I can give you all the details, the market launch, and maybe a little outlook on the prices. And with that, hey and welcome to this new video here at Carjonas, and welcome to the first impressions of the Kia EV3, the new entry-level model at Kia. Numbers-wise, there's still room to go down, and there's something missing in between 2. 3 and 4 were skipped, and for 1 and 2 they probably left some room on purpose, so this one here now represents a compact size similar to a VW ID.3, for example. And it is technically and dimensionally identical in size, just like the VW ID.3. Looks really good. I was able to see it myself for the first time just now because, strangely enough, we didn't receive any pictures before the appointment for a change. And that's why I've basically watched it here with you for the first time. I really like it. Now, of course, look at all the details. You should definitely subscribe to the channel by now. It costs you nothing but helps us a lot with the work. So click on subscribe below and we will look at the details. The EV3 comes in at 430 meters in length, 1.85 meters in width, and 1.56 meters in height, making it very comparable to an ID.3 or a Volvo EX30. To better estimate the proportions, I'll show you some raw footage, as the car looks even better there than in my shots, because unfortunately we only had a very limited amount of time and resources to properly capture its full potential. Very small studio. The vehicle comes standard with a 150 kilowatt of front-wheel drive, that's 204 horsepower, and there are 2 battery sizes, 58.3 kilos. Kilowatt hours with 410 kilometers of range according to WLTP, or 81.4 kilowatt hours, and thus 600 kilometers of range according to WLTP. The vehicle notably features Kia's innovative new signature design with the star map light signature, as well as the unique concept Opposites United, which fundamentally means connecting different and distinct contrasts effectively. And you can see that in many places. For example, the wheels are rather angular and there are always small accent lines. Here in the vehicle, the GT variant is shown. You can see it in my background. That means the vehicle won't appear as sporty in the production series. Personally, I really like the green combined with the sleek black elements and the electric door handles, which look very modern. And in my opinion, the vehicle will initially be available in the base variant for just under 35,000 euros. Even though the side view here in the studio is slightly distorted, you can clearly see the wheelbase of 2.68 meters and the short overhangs. There's an optional glass roof that doesn't open, and some very clever door handles, as shown earlier, that extend electrically, and at the back in the C-pillar, I always find that pretty sleek, and of course it also simplifies aerodynamics, resulting in a drag coefficient of 0.267. The rear end strongly resembles the Kia EV9, especially when you look at the footage again, where the proportions are just more cleverly chosen and the car doesn't look quite as round as it unfortunately does in these shots. Couldn't be done differently. Personally, I really like the light signature. I already liked it on the EV9, and the facelift of the EV6 isn't bad either. Kia has also successfully positioned it on the EV3, making it a distinctive feature across their range. Once we get to the back, we'll first briefly discuss the towing capacity. In the large battery version, you get a ton of towing capacity, which is quite reasonable in this segment, only comparable to the Volvo EX30. Can tow 1.6 tons with the large battery and all-wheel drive, but the VW ID.3, for instance, only has a ton weight. With the small battery, you get 300 kilos of towing capacity here, and the hitch load is not quite known yet. I think it should definitely be enough for 2 e-bikes or something. The trunk is thus extremely surprising. Kia claims it actually has a capacity of 460 liters. And that is not least because I've got this amazing cover right here. You can lower it extremely far down. And 460 liters, to put it in perspective, is 80 liters more than a VW ID.3 with the same external dimensions. So you can tell you probably significantly benefited from the pure front-wheel drive here, especially in this specific situation. But I suspect an all-wheel drive version will follow at some point, because the other Kia models also come with all-wheel drive, and this isn't the smallest car, so it could also become interesting for all those who may still be waiting for it at some point. Otherwise, there's a blind up here that you can hook in on the left and right and also remove, but unfortunately not store underneath, and the rear seats can be folded in a 40:60 ratio. Then you'll have over 1,700 liters of trunk space when it's folded down, and I'll quickly show you that to demonstrate its versatility. So, you then have a flat surface. That means those of you who might want to sleep in such a compact space can do it in here, and then you have an extreme amount of storage volume. I'm really surprised by how much fits in here. Kia really did a great job. I doubt that the tailgate is always electric, because in the EV6, for example, that's not the case either. But just to quickly show it here again, I always find it cool how Kia hides the wiper up here. We already showed that with the EV9. That's always a thing, do you like it or not? But when you position it like here, I think it's pretty cool. And in some situations, it's actually quite practical, but that's not all with the storage volume because this one has a frunk. You can then open it using the Bowden cable in the driver's footwell. Not the prettiest option, if you ask me. And there's also an additional lock right here to ensure it can indeed be opened properly when needed. With the EV9, we could show you, it now works with both a button and a key. I might have wished for that here as well, but maybe not possible in this price segment. And then you're quite amazed because 25 liters actually don't sound like much. But if you see that you can easily fit a cable in there, then it's very, very practical. You could theoretically even build something upwards because the cutout here is quite large. And just to put it in perspective, the only other one in the class that comes to mind right now, feel free to correct me, is the X30, and it only has 7 liters. You really need a folding technique to fit the cable in. Here it's much more relaxed. And just in case you're wondering, of course, an energy kick would fit in too, even with the 10-meter cable and 1 or 2 adapters. Yeah, you'd have to fold that too, but I think it should work. I'm an absolutely huge fan of Frank's, no secret about it, I must admit. To do, and we will take a closer look at the interior. Here you get an almost familiar, open, yet spacious interior concept from Kia. I personally like it very, very much. And this large triple display, you have to say, because the climate control unit is here in the center. Fits in really well, lots of fabric options and many recycled materials in the interior. But my absolute highlight is simply fold this up here, pull out this table, and then you can relax and comfortably work on a table during the charging break. Put the MacBook on it and start working. Personally, I just sit in the car very, very often and work during the charging break. Whether it's emails or quickly editing a video, it all works on here. And so this table is really very practical, but all the details are coming up now. I am always amazed at how manufacturers manage to integrate designs and especially technical elements from larger vehicles into smaller ones. And so, the vehicle here was allowed to adopt the 30-inch infotainment and driver info display from the EV9, enhancing the vehicle's functionality as well as the overall driving experience. And the 12.3-inch head-up display has indeed finally found its rightful place right here. So technically, you're on the same level as the biggest sibling, meaning you also have this new climate control unit here in the center, and the innovative software that we're showing you here today from our latest everyday test with the EV9, simply because during our 1-hour time slot, we unfortunately didn't have enough time to go into more detail about it. Means they have a new route planning, which should be revised again with the start of the EV3, so that the vehicle no longer constantly plans to 100% at the charging stops as with the EV9, and then ensures that you have much longer loading times than you actually need. Because if the vehicles are back to 80% in under 30 minutes, why would you charge to 100%? Up until this moment now, you have always had to limit that in the settings to the desired percentage. And then it was bluntly set to the value you had configured. This will be dynamic in the future. Also, there's wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. This was also made available to some existing vehicles via update, and there are the digital services like the phone key, which you can then share with others through the wallet. The settings have been restructured here, and overall this interface feels much more intuitive. Deeper than what was seen initially with the EV6, but also within their own vehicles from the group, such as Hyundai demonstrating continuous advancements in innovations. This will then also include, for example, digital services such as current weather or sports results, and in the future, streaming offers will also be shown here. This is also supposed to be available at the market launch of the EV3, and the climate control, if you don't like the small display, can be expanded. Although the interior is much smaller, the display was really well integrated, along with the controls underneath. And now there are dynamic ambient lighting elements, like this light bar at the front, which does an animation when you turn it on and off. Maybe there's something more coming our way in the future. In the lower part of the steering wheel, there's now, almost typically for Kia, the gear selector. And the steering wheel is also reminiscent of other models by the manufacturer, but it's intuitive and works well with the dashboard, enhancing the overall driving experience. Well, the interior finish is top-notch, and so is the excellent selection of materials they have chosen. Although Kia consciously uses many recycled elements here, they have made sure that all of them still manage to feel exceptionally good. This board or table, whatever you want to call it, in my opinion, is really the highlight and a cool idea. Below that, there is an inductive charging tray and another large storage compartment with cup holders that can be extended, all thoughtfully designed in front of it. There are still USB-C slots available. The seats here are typically designed in two distinct colors, and in the GT line, they're made to be slightly sportier for a more dynamic feel. Also, in my opinion, it has the most comfortable headrests in the budget category and quite a few comfort features. I'm not yet sure if everything in the series will be electric, but optionally, there is also climate control heating and even steering wheel heating. You can see the glove compartment briefly here, and above it there is a QR code that shows you where and how things were recycled, and the ambient lighting as a strip in the door is also well done. The material matches very well with the other dark elements, and here we can see the glass roof from the inside. The second row is also quite spacious, especially considering the size of the vehicle. I can comfortably tuck my feet under the driver's seat, just like in many other cars in this class, but not perfectly. So it gets a bit tighter there, but you have a completely level floor, so you can still maneuver accordingly even in more confined spaces where precision is required. Here there are only regular air vents, but at least there are air vents. An ID.3, for example, has nothing in that spot. And what I also find very cool is that there is a seat heating function on the outer seats back here. Not all cars have that either. Additionally, there are two ISOFIX points on the right and left, and really a lot of space combined with good material quality. So at the top, all is soft, even where I rest my hand. And I also think this color scheme is pretty cool with the seats in that color and then again on the door. And not to forget, there's a middle armrest with two cup holders here, making it quite convenient for everyone. Unfortunately, no ski pass-through or other split here at this point. This will probably only be available for the larger models, but I also think it's nice that the seats, very similar in design to the EV6 and EV9, and you have the USB-C slots in the same convenient place here, making it user-friendly. So many functions that you know from the other models and hardly any compromises in terms of comfort and quality. Sure, the seat cushion is shorter, but that's just because of the interior space. I'm super curious to hear what you think about the interior, so feel free to drop it in the comments. The EV3 now charges at the front, right side, using a newly designed flap, not the old part that you sometimes laboriously have to pull out, and it now also prominently features a conveniently placed button to unlock the connector more quickly. And that works in the small battery version with 102 kilo in the 400 volt system, and in the large battery variant also with 400 volts, naturally with 128 kilo. And that ensures you can conveniently get from to 80% in under just 30 minutes, a quite decent value by any standard. These smaller vehicles are not necessarily the ones you use for long distances every day, but rather for the annual vacation trip or visiting relatives. And at home or in the city, you'll be charging them standardly with 11 kilodollars. And then depending on the battery size, the car is fully charged again in 5 to 8 hours. So in a context where I personally find that very, very good. This is also nicely integrated. This here with these black wheel arches reminds a bit of the off-road design of some other models. I really think it turned out great, and I'm very, very excited, like I just mentioned, to hear your feedback on the vehicle. Feel free to write it in the comments. What do you think about it? Do you think he can keep up with the competition? I would say that this is definitely a really good move by Kia and one of the best in its segment. If not the best, you have to decide. And otherwise, you can see my last test in winter up here. From the Volvo EX30, and down here is the facelift of the ID.3 and the GTX version.